When I quietly corrected a dangerous mistake in front of a client, my boss hissed, "If you embarrass me again, you'll regret it." He smiled sweetly at the client, but his threat still hung in the air. I documented everything, sent it to legal and compliance, and by month's end, not only was he fired, but the entire department was restructured because of his negligence. He still tries to blame me to this day. I've worked in financial consulting for most of my adult life. I'm not flashy. I don't try to climb the ladder. I like the work, the real work. Numbers don't lie. People do. I was based in Denver, working for a mid-sized firm that handled investment strategy for commercial clients. I had a decent setup. Pay was good, hours weren't too crazy, and most of the time, I was left alone to run models, analyze risk, and prepare slide decks for senior consultants. My boss, Rick, yeah, let's call him Rick, was the opposite of me. Slick, loud, dressed like he was always headed to a golf tournament. He didn't understand half the models I built, but he was good at pretending. He'd say things like, "We're not selling numbers, we're selling confidence." That should tell you everything. For years, I just kept my head down. Rick would take credit for work I did. He'd dump his stuff on me last minute. He talked over me in meetings. But I figured that was the cost of doing business. People like him always float to the top. Until one day, he almost sank us all. We had this big client coming in, a real estate investment group out of Dallas. They were thinking about shifting their holdings across 3 states, and the deal was worth millions in fees for us if we landed it. Rick had been hyping it up for weeks. He told me to build a detailed model on risk exposure based on 3 different restructuring options. I did it. I triple-checked everything. I gave him the report, the key points, even included a simple one-pager in case he didn't want to read the whole thing. I had a bad feeling he wasn't going to look at it. Meeting day comes. Rick's in rare form, laughing, shaking hands, acting like we're all on a yacht together. The CFO of the Dallas group, a sharp woman named Gloria, sat across from us. She wasn't here to joke. She wanted answers. She asked Rick about capital reserves and if our model recommended cutting the buffer in the restructure. Rick said, without hesitation, "We think you can go ahead without the reserve. Free up the cash. There's minimal downside." I almost choked. That was flat out wrong. According to our model, cutting the reserve would put them at a high risk if interest rates shifted even slightly. It could expose them to tens of millions in losses. I glanced at Rick, waiting for a correction. Nothing. He just smiled and nodded like he knew what he was talking about. So I spoke up. Quietly. Calmly. "Actually," I said, "our risk model shows a 30% increase in exposure if the reserve is removed. Especially in the event of a rate hike, which the Feds hinted at for Q2. I didn't blame him. I didn't call him out. I just said what was true. Gloria nodded. She appreciated the clarity. Rick smiled at her. "That's why we bring the whole team," he said. Then, as she flipped through her notes, he leaned toward me and whispered, low, like a threat, "If you embarrass me again, you'll regret it." I didn't respond. But in my head, something snapped. I'd let him walk over me for years. I'd watched him take credit for my work, blame me for things he messed up, and now he was threatening me for stopping him from giving dangerous advice? That's when I started documenting everything. I mean everything. Emails. Meeting notes. Slack messages. Every time he ignored warnings, every shortcut he took, every time he signed off on work he didn't review. I had receipts going back months. And I knew exactly who to send them to, legal and compliance. It didn't happen overnight. That kind of thing never does. After the meeting, Rick acted like nothing happened. Gave me a pat on the back, told me nice recovery, and walked off to lunch with the execs. I went back to my desk and started putting together a timeline. I didn't know exactly what I was building at first. I just knew I needed a record. I made a folder on my personal drive. Named it Rick_notes. I copied every email where he ignored model warnings. Screenshots of internal messages where he told analysts to just fudge it for the client. I even pulled the meeting notes from past presentations where the numbers he gave didn't match the models we submitted, things I had let slide because I didn't want to stir the pot. I waited a week. Then 2. Rick got cocky again. Started making the same bad calls. And the Dallas group? They came back with follow-up questions. They'd clearly run the numbers themselves and saw I was right. But Rick didn't like that. He pulled me into a small conference room, shut the door, and hissed, "You think you're smart? Undermining me in front of clients? You keep this up, you'll be out on your ass." I said nothing. Just looked at him. That was the last time we spoke in private. I sent the package the next day. Full timeline. All the documentation. I submitted it to compliance first, then legal. Both departments were supposed to be neutral. But I knew one of the women in legal. We'd worked on a regulatory issue together last year. She was sharp and quiet and didn't owe Rick a damn thing. A week later, I got a message from her, "We're looking into this. Don't say anything yet." Then things started to move. Rick got pulled into a performance review. That never happened to someone at his level unless something serious was going on. He came out of that meeting red-faced and silent. 2 days later, a new policy memo dropped across the firm. It was about compliance accountability for client-facing leads. It had Rick's fingerprints all over it, not his words, but a response to his recklessness. He started getting paranoid. Accused me of trying to poison the well. Told other analysts I was gunning for his job. One guy on our team, a junior analyst named Derek, pulled me aside and said Rick was telling people I had a personal grudge. That's when I knew he felt the floor shifting under him. What I didn't expect was for the fallout to spread beyond Rick. Apparently, once compliance started digging, they found more. Not just from him, from 2 other directors who had been signing off on shady client reports. People who were part of Rick's little circle. 3 weeks after I sent that file, the firm made a quiet announcement: internal restructuring due to strategic compliance concerns. Rick was gone by Monday. No party. No farewell email. His name vanished from the internal directory like he'd never worked there. But it wasn't just him. 2 other senior consultants were let go. 1 VP was reassigned. Legal and compliance now sat in on every major client strategy meeting. I kept my head down. Never said a word. Just did my work. But Rick? He still tries to blame me. I thought it would end there, with Rick gone and the firm moving on. But I was wrong. About 2 weeks after he was let go, I started getting texts from an unknown number. At first, they were vague. "Hope you feel good about what you did. You think you're safe because they needed a scapegoat." Then they got more personal. "You don't know who you just crossed." The messages came late at night. Always from different numbers. Always anonymous. I ignored them at first. I figured it was Rick, still bitter, lashing out from whatever rock he was hiding under. But then my wife got a message too. A message with her name in it. That crossed a line. I filed a report with HR and legal, attached the screenshots, and flagged it as harassment. I didn't accuse Rick by name, I didn't need to. But I told them it felt connected to the recent firings. HR was concerned but slow to act. Legal asked for more proof. So I bought a burner phone, created a dummy email, and responded to one of the texts. I said, "You want to talk? Let's talk. Face to face." Didn't expect a reply. But I got one. Thursday. 6 p.m. Glenwood Tavern. Now, Glenwood Tavern was about 10 minutes from our office. Quiet place, mostly older regulars, cheap drinks. I used to go there after work with a few colleagues before the pandemic. I didn't tell anyone. I just showed up. I sat at the bar. Waited. Nursed a club soda. Then Rick walked in. He looked worse than I expected. Bloated. Unshaven. Dressed like he hadn't done laundry in a while. He didn't see me at first. He just walked to the back booth and waited. Looked around like a man expecting someone who might not show. I let him sit there for 5 minutes. Then I walked over and sat down across from him without saying a word. He blinked like he'd seen a ghost. "You," he said. "You smug little," I held up my hand. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "You've been texting me." "My wife." He didn't deny it. "You think this is over?" he hissed. "You have no idea what kind of damage you've done." I leaned in. Quiet. Calm. "You did that to yourself," I said. "All I did was stop covering for you." He laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. It sounded hollow. "You think they care about you," he said. "They used your little report to wipe out people they didn't want to deal with. You were just the cleanup guy. The safe one." Maybe he was right. Maybe the firm used my report to clean house. Maybe they saw it as a way to quietly cut dead weight and avoid legal exposure. But I didn't care. He leaned back, looked around the bar like he was trying to find someone to back him up. "I still talk to people," he said. "You're not untouchable." I stood up. "You're done, Rick." He didn't follow me out. But after that night, the messages stopped. For a while. I should have felt relief after that night. But I didn't. Rick disappeared, but the damage didn't stop. 2 weeks later, I found out he'd filed a whistleblower retaliation complaint against me. Claimed I'd falsified data to get him fired. Claimed I was trying to take over his position, that I'd been grooming clients behind his back. It was absurd. I had proof of everything I'd done. Everything I'd said. But even with the truth on my side, it didn't feel safe anymore. The firm opened an internal review. Not just into Rick's claims, but into the entire project team. That included me. Suddenly, I wasn't the quiet numbers guy anymore. I was the center of a storm. HR started watching me. I was pulled into meeting after meeting to explain things I'd already documented in black and white. Worse, some of my coworkers turned cold. People who used to chat with me in the kitchen avoided me now. I could feel it, the doubt in their eyes. Like they didn't know if I was the hero who cleaned up a mess or the snake who took out my own boss. Then I got called into a meeting with senior leadership. They thanked me for my transparency. They told me the review found no wrongdoing. Then they told me they were restructuring again, and my role was being eliminated. Just like that. 7 years. Gone. They gave me a generous severance package. Told me it was about strategic priorities, not performance. Bullshit. I'd been useful when they needed to cut out the cancer. But once the infection was cleared, I was disposable. Too many questions. Too many eyes. I signed the paperwork. Took the money. Walked out with a single box and a half-fake smile. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, because I was furious. Not just at Rick, but at myself. I thought doing the right thing would matter. I thought truth would protect me. I was wrong. So I made a choice. I sent everything. To the Dallas client. The reports. The emails. The recordings I'd taken during Rick's meetings. Not just the ones where he made dangerous recommendations, but the ones where execs ignored it. Where they covered it up. Where they pressured me to tone it down. I didn't even write a message. Just dropped a link to a secure folder and typed, "Your team deserves to know the full truth." 3 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Gloria, the CFO from the Dallas group. She said, "We're terminating our relationship with your old firm. We filed a formal complaint with FINRA and the SEC. We're naming specific individuals. And I'd like to talk to you about a job." I didn't speak. I just let the silence hang there. "Are you interested?" she asked. I finally said, "Yeah. I am." I took the job. Higher pay. Fully remote. Clean slate. "Rick?" I heard through a mutual contact that he tried to freelance but couldn't land a single client. The FINRA complaint followed him. He burned too many bridges. People talk. Last I heard, he was working part-time at some back-office firm in Omaha, handling spreadsheets for companies that don't know his name. As for the old firm? Their name hit the news 6 months later. SEC fines. Lawsuits. Loss of multiple accounts. The strategic compliance restructure didn't protect them from the rot. I don't feel bad. I tried to do it the quiet way. But he wanted a war. So I gave him one.